I was scrolling through TikTok the other day and I came across this video from a pretty well known influencer who was comparing Bitcoin to altcoins at this particular moment. And I've seen him do this before. He opened up his video by basically saying, Bitcoin's just not interesting. I want to find better deals, better options out there. And to be fair to this particular influencer, he really likes utility. He's a believer in the future of blockchain technology. And so he's trying to find innovation in this area. And fine, that's good. But I'm telling you, I can't disagree with him more. Bitcoin is very interesting, especially now. And I know it's easy to get caught up in this idea that you're only going to get X% of gains from Bitcoin. But what is going on right now with Bitcoin, I'm telling you, there is going to be a day 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, when you are going to look back on today, maybe even less than 10 years, and you're going to be kicking yourself that you should have been buying more Bitcoin than you've been accumulating, whether you hold very little or whether you hold a lot. I really am quite convinced that I am going to in 2035, wish that I had bought more Bitcoin in 2025, even with Bitcoin over $100,000. But I mean, like the stuff that is going on right now, I just don't know how we're going to see Bitcoin just go along the way it normally goes. You know, it has this blow off top and then it dumps because the level of accumulation that we're seeing right now is just off the charts insane. Now, of course, you know, Black Swan event or Great Financial Crisis 2.0 or COVID 2.0, sure, we could see Bitcoin crash, but it's one of those things that I really don't want to be in a position where I'm betting against Bitcoin right now, given the insane things that are happening in this moment that weren't happening in 2021 or 2017 or 2013. For example, okay, I'm going to show you some examples here. I'm going to read some statistics as to the amount of Bitcoin that is being bought right now. Okay, did you know that institutions and the ETFs have bought 609,000 Bitcoin since the election in November? We're in May right now. Though November, since the election, November, a little over 6 months, 609,000 Bitcoin have been purchased by institutions and ETFs, by people who don't just buy and sell Bitcoin, but they hold it. That is 2.9% of Bitcoin's supply, 2.9% of the Bitcoin that will ever exist. But that's not even factoring in the fact that Satoshi Nakamoto has 1 million Bitcoin in his wallet, and that's never been touched and is probably never going to be touched. And 4 to 6 million Bitcoin are lost forever, most likely lost forever. So I'm actually quite interested in this asset that the smart money and the big players are buying. I find it to be very interesting, and I think that there's a long way to go, and there's certain things that we're going to be able to do with Bitcoin that it's just going to create a level of financial freedom that a lot of us just dream of. But did you know also that OTC desks are running out of Bitcoin? So in 2021, at this point, the miners that are willing to sell their Bitcoin, mostly miners, they had in their possession something like 480,000 Bitcoin at the end of 2021. And that has been steadily going down. It was pretty much flat throughout the entirety of Bitcoin's existence until about 2021 when it reached a peak, and then it's been just straight down ever since then. And now the OTC desks have about 115,000 Bitcoin in their holdings. And so what happens? I know I made a short about this already, but what happens when they run out of Bitcoin? I mean, just think about this. If you had $1 billion and you wanted to buy Bitcoin with that $1 billion, if you tried to buy that on an exchange, what would happen is that you would send Bitcoin's price up by about 10%. And then it would instantly come right back down because of limit orders that are filling sell orders. And it would pretty much come right back down to the price you bought it. And because of the fact that you're instantly a whale and the supply is so illiquid, you will have lost, if you had $1 billion that you put right into it right away, you would have lost something like $100 million, maybe even more than that, instantly on your purchase. And so what do? Instead, you try to buy OTC. You buy from the miners. You buy directly from the miners, and you do buy it at a premium. They'll sell it to you. Like if Bitcoin's $110,000, maybe they'll sell it for $115 or $120, but that's still better than buying on Coinbase. And so they certainly have an incentive to do that, to buy OTC. But what happens when you have the ETFs, when you have strategic reserves in various states, when you have potentially a Bitcoin strategic reserve in the United States, and they're trying to buy X amount of Bitcoin. They've been allocated $1 billion, $10 billion, $100 billion to buy X amount of Bitcoin, and they can't buy it OTC. And so then what happens if they're trying to go to Coinbase or Bitmart or BingX or Binance and trying to buy the Bitcoin off of those exchanges? Well, maybe that'll work a little bit if they DCA, but then the amount of Bitcoin on the exchanges has also been going down. That peaked literally the week that COVID in the United States dropped in March of 2020, and it's been going down ever since then, especially as a result of increasing M2 at rates that were unprecedented historically. And so it's wild to me that was the peak, the great debasement, the launching of the great debasement of 2020 was the peak of Bitcoin available on exchanges. And then that supply is going to go down, and it's not going to be easy to buy that supply. So what happens after that? I mean, we're not talking about this taking weeks or months to play. Yes, this is going to take a few years to play itself out. I think the OTC count is going to go pretty close to zero within a year. And then after that, the supply from exchanges is going to be pretty close to zero at some point, next 5 years or so. And then good luck buying Bitcoin. Really, seriously. I know that it seems like you could buy as much Bitcoin as your heart desires, but there's going to be a day when it's going to be a lot more difficult to actually buy Bitcoin. Those days are coming. And I mean, think about like strategic reserves are being established. They're already established in 3 states in the United States. It's surely going to be more. There's surely going to be countries that are buying billions of dollars. We're not in the million level anymore, buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin. Did you know that Bank of America did a study in 2021? At that time, given how illiquid the supply was at that time, which is more illiquid now, and they came to find that if you bought $93 million worth of Bitcoin, you would drive the price up by 1%. And so 93 million, if there's a net gain of $93 million of purchases of Bitcoin, Bitcoin's price will rise by 1% on that given day. That was back in 2021. It might be even less now, maybe like 80 million or 70 million, something like that. And we're talking about billions of dollars that are going to be injected into Bitcoin. We're talking about down the road retirement. We're talking about billion-dollar institutions, multi-billion-dollar institutions, trillion-dollar institutions DCAing heavy amounts into Bitcoin. I find that to be very interesting. Did you know? Okay. This kind of blew me away. The gold ETF, GLD ETF, launched by BlackRock. It launched in November of 2004. And they bought a lot of gold as people put money into the ETF. They bought a lot of gold. And if you were to see the gold price from November of 2024 over that decade, you would see that gold's price increased dramatically. And a lot of that had to do, not all of it, but a lot of that had to do with the ETF being launched because of how much gold they accumulated. Okay, did you know that the amount of money that has poured into Bitcoin through the Bitcoin ETFs is 20 times the amount of money that went in to the gold ETFs after the first year at least? And the projections for 2026 and 2027 are actually higher than what we've seen over the first year of these ETFs' existence. And so if that's the case, I mean, they already own over 1 million Bitcoin. And if the projections for 2026 and 2027 are higher, my goodness, we are running out. We are running out of time. This is the not, it's not that this is, this is more than just interesting. This is the most interesting asset in the world. I have no problem right now with Bitcoin over $110,000 buying little bits of Bitcoin every day. And it's only going to get crazier. Did you even, when I'm talking about 20 times the amount of money that has gone into the Bitcoin ETFs versus the gold ETF, the fact that as gold's price increases, miners have an incentive to mine more gold all over the world. And that is what happened. You know, there was an increase in production. Well, you can't do that with Bitcoin. And so I know it feels like we're in this phase of diminishing returns and it's only going to go up less, it's going to go up less than it did in 2021. It's going to go up less than it did in 2017 and in 2013. But I am telling you with a great deal of certainty that this is going to break to the upside one day. And that day might be soon. Now, of course, economic issues, it's very turbulent out there. Short term, this may be a thing where it goes down. Maybe it would go down to $50,000, $60,000 in the bear market, whatever. But I am in a position mentally right now where I have no desire to sell my Bitcoin because there's a high enough chance that this will break to the upside within a year, 2 years, honestly. Like at that time that you would be thinking that we are in the bear, we're supposed to be in the bear market. When's most people saying that we're supposed to be in the bear market? 2026 supposed to be the bear market. And so what are you going to do? You're going to sell your Bitcoin in 2026 because that's supposed to be the bear market. And then you're going to buy low and sell high, right? You're going to buy at the bear market bottom and sell at the peak. If there was ever a time for that to not happen, and now I'm not talking about altcoins, I'm just talking about Bitcoin. If there was ever a time for that to not happen, that time would be the next time when it's supposed to be the bear market. If there was ever a time. And the further we go into the future, the more likely that that Bitcoin is just going to break to the upside, especially as fiat currencies around the world are just losing ground. We're seeing the bond market get out of control in Japan, in the United States, and people are losing faith in fiat. Where are they going to put it? They're going to put it in the two most interesting assets in the world, which is gold and Bitcoin. Personally, in my opinion, you are being short-sighted if you don't think that Bitcoin is interesting. Nothing is more interesting than Bitcoin. So be interested in it. Because this is altcoins, heavy risk. Bitcoin is as close to a sure thing as you are going to find.